That is the only thing we will be talking about tonight, is that RFP. Oh, can you hear me now? Did you hear what I had to say before? Okay. I guess for those watching at home, this is the May 12th, 2021 subcommittee of solid waste. So we will be reviewing the Republic Services RFP. You should all have grading sheets in front of you, correct? All right. Becky, thank you for the summary of their booklet. We have a presentation tonight, and guys, I'm so sorry because of the delay. You're limited to 7 minutes, so no, I'm only kidding. Dan, if whoever wants to be the perfect. So we'll jump right in it. Typically, what we do is we let you guys present. If you would like us to hold questions till the end, if you want to take questions as we go, I'll let you guys kind of dictate how you would like to.
Yeah,
envision that.
If we can hold questions to the end so you can kind of see the entire picture of what we're trying to present.
Okay.
Maybe.
All right, so take notes, fellow committee members.
All right. Well, hopefully everybody knows who I am. I've been up here enough, you probably don't want to see me.
Well, just for the record, go ahead and introduce yourself, yeah, and anybody else you bring up.
Will do. I'm Dan Jamison with Republic Services. I'd like to thank the committee for the opportunity to present here tonight. I'd like to thank our employees who live and work here in Rutherford County, and we appreciate them coming out tonight to support us. I'd also like to thank the public. We hear you. We're committed to transparency and appreciate your attendance here to hear what we have to say tonight. We're here to present our plan as we first laid out in our RFI response last September, and then we reiterated and laid out in our plan in response to the RFP in February. Our response is in response to a comprehensive integrated plan to give the county of Rutherford a first-class and a world-class solid waste program. I'm here to tell you that we're committed not only to invest in the community, we're committed to invest here in the facilities, we're committed to education of the public to make sure the programs are successful, we're committed to achieving a sustainable solution for the county, and we're committed to fixing the problems that we have today. Tonight we hope to clear up a lot of misinformation that's out there, a lot of misconceptions, and to provide you with the information to allow this board to make an informed decision. So, enough from me. I'm pleased to introduce our team tonight to present Mike Klassen, who is the general manager at Middle Point, will be one of our presenters tonight. He's responsible for managing the landfill. And Derek Wolf, who is our general manager for our hauling operations, and he covers Murfreesboro as well as Nashville, and is responsible for running the operations on a day-to-day basis of our hauling company that is also here. So, gentlemen, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Dan. Again, as Dan said, my name is Mike Klassen. I'm our general manager over Middle Point Landfill, which includes all of the post-collection facilities in Rutherford County, as well as in Nashville. A little bit about my background. So I'm a professionally licensed environmental engineer. My degree is in biological systems engineering. And for the last 15 years, really my entire career, what I've done is I've helped communities plan, build, design, and operate their solid waste management facilities. I'm very excited to be doing the same here with you all. I started in this role about 2 months ago, so I haven't quite had an opportunity to meet everyone, spoken with a few of you, but what we have heard in talking with you, and Becky, you'll have to help me, I think oh, there it goes. Had to be closer to it, perfect. So, what we have heard in discussions with you of what your vision is for this process. First and foremost is, you should be commended for embarking on this journey to really initiate a long-term integrated solid waste management system in Tennessee. It's the first of its kind. You're looking to be a leader in the state, to be one of the greenest counties in the state, and to lead by example. So we've heard that that's what you want. And part of that is integrating maximum diversion of recyclables in other factions of the waste stream. It's engaging and educating the community, really in a whole community engagement program to help adopt proper recycling habits. It's to dispose of as little municipal solid waste as possible, understanding that disposal is inevitably part of an integrated solid waste management system. To limit the risk of Rutherford County by acquiring your existing Class 1 and Class 3 landfill facilities, and to overall commit to a long-term, safe, affordable, and responsible solid waste management solution. So as we go through, we're proud to say that of all of those things that we know you want because it's listed in the RFP, we're proud to have proposed on every single one of those items. And I believe we're the only company who has done that, which means we feel that we are uniquely qualified to be able to offer every single aspect that you're looking for as part of your integrated solid waste management system. So as we go through the presentation today, we've kind of set it up to mirror really exactly how your RFP was laid out. And so that's how we're going to kind of roll through. But to start with, I wanted to give you a little bit of background about who we are at Republic Services. So Republic Services is the premier solid waste management company in the United States. We have 36,000 employees, over 5 million annual pickups per day, with a 99% service reliability rate on all of those pickups, and a fleet of over 16,000 vehicles. But really the numbers don't really speak enough about what we do. It's more how we do things every day that we feel is what defines us. And here are some of the awards that we have that really are reflective of that. We are consistently rated by Barron's and S&P Global as one of the most sustainable companies in the world, rated by Fortune as one of the best places to work in the United States, and in 2020 rated by Fortune as one of the best places to work for women in the United States. That's what we've done nationally, but we've also doing a lot of good here locally as well. So we have a shared interest with the county in how you manage your solid waste. And that's because this is our home too, and it has been since 1988. We have 115 employees servicing about 1,500 businesses and industries within Rutherford County currently. So this is our home. We live here, we work here, our kids go to school here, and we're proud to be citizens here. In a lot of ways, we truly are your constituents. But it goes beyond being just an individual citizen, and we take our job of a corporate citizen very seriously as well. That is being a good neighbor, but it's also reinvesting and being a positive impact to the economy here locally. So last year alone, we had over $7.5 million of positive economic benefit to the community, including $1.25 million in host fee benefit paid to Rutherford County, $1.25 million in free disposal value, and nearly $8 million of free disposal value for the city of Murfreesboro. Beyond that, we also have invested in the local community, and we believe in continuing to do that. Last year alone, we invested over $200,000 directly into a variety of worthwhile causes here locally. Again, it goes beyond just having a business here. This is our home, and we want to invest in it. So that's just what we're doing now. Certainly, we expect that, should you select Republic Services to be your partner, as you embark on this journey to move forward into going from a solid waste system, which is disposal only, to an integrated solid waste management system that this community participation and citizenship would do nothing but grow. So now we'll go through each of the steps you laid out in the RFP, and I'll turn it over to my colleague, Derek.
Technical. Can you go? One more. One more. Thank you. Right there for right now. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mike. Just to introduce myself, Derek Wolf, the general manager over our hauling or collection side of the business, with responsibilities in Nashville as well as Murfreesboro. Been here in the area for a little less than 2 years with Republic. So part of the proposal, there were several components, and so I'm going to talk to you about a few of those and then hand it back to Mike to go through a few others. I'm going to start with the public education part of the proposal. If you wouldn't mind. So as Mike had stated, Republic Services is a proud of its 40-year history here in Rutherford County, take a great deal of pride in being good neighbors and community partners well. As part of the public education proposal, we're going to provide a host of educational materials to help the residents make the most of their integrated waste disposal services. These are going to be items such as introductory mailers, how-to packets, what to dispose of, what not to, a full digital suite of products, website, mobile apps, customer support, seasonal do's and don'ts for trash collection, things that are going to matter for the folks in the community here. We'll engage with key civic groups, HOAs, schools as part of an ongoing partnership with the county. We're taking a phased approach to the educational proposal, or the public educational proposal. Republic recommends this phased approach, and we're going to, what we're calling our first phase is kind of phase one, or our base proposal, which we believe meets all the requirements of the RFP. The public education and community outreach resources is offered as a very specific negotiated service, such as collection, processing, and disposal. There'll also be bilingual educational materials, which can be included with this plan as well. All materials that are going to be included in the public education proposal are all part of the service offering pricing that we are proposing. In addition to the educational materials and the materials noted above, as part of the community outreach, Republic will work with the local leaders, ensure alignment on the promotion and proper implementation of the county's solid waste plan. We have long-established partnerships with a lot of local schools, organizations, including MTSU, which my colleague Mike's going to discuss a little bit later about some of the things that we have working with that group. Long-term sustainability is at the core of our company's values. Working closely with municipal partners, providing materials that they can share to help educate residents is incredibly impactful. We have an established award-winning recycling education program for students. The Recycling Simplified program provides teachers with the materials they need at no cost. Having children apply what they learn in school to home offers a foundation for a sustainable, robust recycling program for the community. Our Recycling Simplified won 2019 Best Recycling Public Education Program Award by the National Waste and Recycling Association. As I said earlier, Phase 1 base program meets all the requirements of the RFP, but Republic Services is capable of providing much more. We have 2 additional levels of service offerings to help the county achieve its long-term waste and diversion goals. Phase 2 includes items such as billboards, radio, at-home ads. Our Phase 3 envisions construction of a world-class recycling center. We encourage you to consider these additional offerings over time as we see participation per household increase. So we're going to talk a little bit about collection and what we're offering there. As discussed, we're a trusted partner here in the community, but across the organization, as Mike had mentioned, we handle almost 5 million pickups per day at a 99% or higher reliability rate. Here in Rutherford County, our residential group today handles around 90,000 pickups a month, also at a 99% or higher reliability rate. What we are proposing today is curbside collection once per week and recycling collection bi-monthly. In addition, we'll expertly manage the county's convenience centers and look to build a new, modern facility to support an expanded curbside collection program. Future programs could include things such as yard or household hazardous waste programs as well. Our initial curbside collection program, known as Phase 1 in this proposal, will meet all the requirements of the RFP. And it comes with industry-leading internal safety and training programs for all of our employees, ensuring that we have our employees operating safely on your roads. Our experience in operating convenience centers will enable us to handle the bulk items, including yard waste, in a very safe and economical way. Our expanded offerings here could include items such as weekly recycling, smaller carts for our solid waste program, future diversion programs that will ultimately reduce the need for convenience centers, yielding cost savings for the county as participation increases in our curbside collection proposal or program. That's it on the collection side. I'm going to hand it back over to Mike to discuss a little bit about how we're going to process material.
Thanks, Derek. So in order for Rutherford County to meet its needs and its goals of an integrated solid waste management system, maximum diversion of the recyclable portion of the waste stream that you're currently landfilling is a critical component of doing that. As you already know, moving a community from a program of effectively zero organized formal recycling into a modern, integrated, robust, well-participated in program is going to require a significant paradigm shift in both mindset and behavior of the community. That's why in our proposal, we have a twofold approach to getting us started, with the idea being you start with a quick win to build momentum in the community for the program, and then as participation in the program grows, you can sort of expand the program as you go. So first step is all about education. So we would initially focus in K through 12 educational opportunities. What we've seen in our experience is this is really where a rollout of a recycling program will succeed or fail. It's in the education. And the most effective way to educate a community, not surprisingly, is through the children. You educate the kids at school, they then come up through the household and help parents learn the proper way to recycle. The second piece is to immediately begin a recycling program, as Derek said, with collection every other week for OCC, which is cardboard, corrugated cardboard. That would be utilizing a third-party processor for that material, and then that's phase one. And then slowly over time, as participation in the program develops, as more people learn to recycle, as more materials are coming into the recycling stream, we would then expand. So that's what we're calling phase two, and then up into phase three, which is a slow expansion of the program into other materials, including metals, plastics, glass. Once we hit the, as I said, we're going to start with just collecting recyclables on our own and then utilizing a third-party processor. Once we get to that 100,000 household participation mark, at that point we're calling phase three, is when Republic would then build a state-of-the-art, brand new community recycling facility to handle all of these various waste streams that we've now built a program to feed. Phase four from that point is a longer-term goal, but something where you sort of bolt on other pieces like a community education center or other sort of outreach to that facility, or have the ability to go into things like recycling more difficult materials, organics processing potentially, household hazardous waste, electronics, mattresses and tires. All of those things we see as sort of a mature program recycling. So wanted to share two examples of programs where we've done something very similar in the past. One of these I know you're all very familiar with, and that's the facility in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's a 110,000 square foot facility capable of processing a fully loaded truck in less than 3 minutes, which services 600,000 residents per day. Another example of a facility, a little bit smaller scale, but more recent, is in Plano, Texas, where we have a facility that handles about 350 tons of recyclables per day. One of the reasons we felt this was an important one to share is it includes a 5,000 square foot community education center, which helps the community understand the importance of recycling and how to, which then garners a successful program. Both of these facilities won National Waste and Recycling Association's Facility of the Year, Nevada in 2016, Plano in 2019, and are indicative of something that we could do together here in Rutherford County, certainly have an award-winning facility. With that, we'll go back to Derek to talk a little bit about the transportation side. There you go.
Thank you, Mike. So from a transportation perspective, it's what we do as an organization. We're the leaders when it comes to safe and efficient transportation of recyclables and waste. As Mike had stated earlier, we operate one of the largest fleets in the world. This includes partnerships with long-haul companies, rail cars, whatever's necessary. We have the capabilities to responsibly meet all the needs of Rutherford County. We'll be there a host of options to responsibly manage the waste here and recycling needs in Rutherford County. Our proposal focuses on Our proposal focuses on environmental stewardship by reducing carbon emissions that includes potentially utilizing natural gas vehicles, also known as CNG-powered vehicles. Keeping Rutherford County's waste local also means we'll use less fuel, produce fewer carbon emissions. Expanded partnership could result in optimizing routing, which would mean fewer trucks on the local roads. Reducing traffic congestions, which also means fewer emissions as well. The broader scope of hauling would expand the reach of our industry-leading safety and maintenance programs, ensuring safer travel on the roads. We recommend keeping Rutherford County's waste local, which there are several long-term benefits. Some of these benefits include guaranteed disposal rates, lower disposal rates, lower transportation cost, no need for additional capital investments in the infrastructure. Back one, I'm sorry. We'll just leave it there. That's fine. As you can see, there are additional environmental benefits to this plan as well. Avoiding long-haul transportation of waste leads to less fuel used and fewer carbon emissions generated. As a company, we aspire to reduce our absolute gas emissions by 35% by the year 2030. Every CNG truck we deploy today is equivalent to 600 mature trees planted each year. We're very proud to have such ambitious goals when it comes to taking care of the environment, reducing greenhouse gas emissions by more than a third this decade. And I'll give it back to Mike. He's going to talk us through the disposal portion.
Thanks, Derek. So let's start by clearly stating a truth that everyone in this room wishes wasn't the case, including Dan, Derek, and myself, but is just the reality. And that is any decision that the county makes, any community makes regarding managing their solid waste, whether it's maximum diversion, incineration, or other waste to energy, landfills are always going to be part of the puzzle. Viewed this way, landfills really are a community asset, right? They provide safe, affordable disposal outlets for residents, businesses, and industry, and offer certainty as local governments, like you're doing right now, look to make long-term planning decisions about how to manage that waste. In that sense, they really are critical to any community's ability to grow and develop. We're seeing that right now in Rutherford County with the robust growth and development that's happening. Except there's a kicker here, and that is, in your case, via host agreements with us at Republic, you have a free disposal to county residents, as well as have a revenue-generating asset via out-of-county waste paid for by host fees. Middle Point truly is an economic engine that allows the ability to power all of these different integrated programs that you're envisioning. With Middle Point in the picture, it makes your goals of a modern and integrated solid waste management system affordable and significantly more attainable. So RFP response lays out several options to consider. I know they're a little bit hard to see on the screen here, but those options for disposal include horizontal and vertical expansions of Middle Point, consolidation with county landfills, or some combination of the two, but in all cases, incumbent in our proposal is the fact that we would have maximum diversion of as many different waste streams as possible to preserve the critical airspace that belongs to the county. So at Middle Point, we currently have approximately 6.5 years of disposal capacity remaining. That means that either an expansion will be required or the county will need to transfer all waste out of county to an undetermined disposal location currently. The disposal limitations that we're seeing here in Rutherford County, though, are being seen really statewide. TDEC reports that currently, within 100 miles of Rutherford County, there's less than 10 years of airspace remaining. That airspace within 100 miles is all Middle Point up there that you see. This is important for two reasons if the decision is made not to utilize Middle Point as part of your integrated solid waste management system. First, with no other active landfills in the county, the reality is that the county will be forced to long haul transfer all of this material in excess of 100 miles away, and when Middle Point closes, you're looking at closer to 150 miles away, based on the data from TDEC. The costs of doing this, especially when compared with free disposal, are going to come as a significant shock to your constituents and going to make incorporation of all of the different components of your integrated system much more difficult to accomplish. The second really important piece of this is the county would lose control of your own destiny. That means that even after 12 years, when, according to TDEC data, there is no available airspace to haul to, the county will then be searching or really hoping for another option to materialize, either a black box technology that would now be affordable, which right now there really aren't any, or you're hauling even farther than 150 miles, likely to an out-of-state solution. So in the RFP, it is clear that you all as leaders recognize that this was an issue, and in reading the RFP, that's why you specifically asked us to provide a solution for 25 years of disposal capacity. So what we've done is propose 3 different options in our RFP, which would accomplish exactly that. The first one, which is the expansion option that currently is undergoing review, is expanding to the northwest of our facility on land already owned and properly zoned. The second option is to move southward, so that would be a consolidation with the Rutherford County landfill. And the third option would be some combination of those, which we're certainly open to discussing more. In each case, those solutions guarantee 30-plus years of disposal capacity for the county. And the key takeaway there is it allows you to control your own destiny. What that means is the more you control locally, the less you're impacted by forces outside of the county, other elected officials, or other policy, and the lower your disposal cost. Also, the more you have an opportunity to leverage a revenue-producing asset, Middle Point, in order to help subsidize the other programs you're looking to create with your integrated solid waste management system. So let me give you a sense of what an integrated plan could look like using Middle Point as part of the solution. So this figure is also in your RFP document. It might be a little bit easier to see. I'm just going to turn around and look at it as we talk through the options. So in the center, the brown, you all familiar, that's Middle Point. All of the property that's colored is property that's currently owned by us. So anything outside of that is not owned. On the north and the south in yellow, the north would be closer to Jefferson Pike. That's the proposed expansion northward. And to the south would be Rutherford County landfill, which is also an option to expand onto. And we'll talk about that one here in a second. Orange on the outside are just sort of landfill support areas. Those could be things like household hazardous waste drop-off, electronics drop-off, community center. Anything really out there, that land is fair game and could be used for something that helps you accomplish your vision of community engagement. The brown there, the dark brown at the very southern tip, that's what we had earmarked for a composting facility. So that would be an organics processing portion of the site, primarily focused on green waste to start with, but certainly something that could expand to food waste if that was what you desired. The light brown is other portions of the Rutherford County landfill that sort of would remain closed and untouched as part of this conceptual plan. The blue at the far north is where our hauling company currently sits. And there's opportunities for us to move that hauling company to the other side of Landfill Road and expand it for a new facility there. Also where the Citizen Convenience Center for the county is currently located, so we would have an opportunity to expand that if you so chose. And then finally, the green there is an area that we call the Matthews property. We've used it for a variety of support functions over the years. Most recently, it's really just kind of laying there unused. And so we have reached out to MTSU as an opportunity for something we're calling the True Blue Sustainability Initiative to have a partnership with their ecological, biological departments and other areas of science for wetlands, environmental habitat restoration, or anything else that they could view as a worthwhile cause for that property. We're currently in early stages of those discussions. This is just an idea of something we could do, right? And ultimately, it's going to come down to what you as the county, as the leaders, are looking for. But in any case, having the landfill as part of the solution is the only way that all of these options for integrated land use plan will be available. Our goal is certainly to work with you to find the ideal solution, but this solution here, as an example, allows you to control your own destiny, maintain affordable costs, and create a central hub for achieving your vision of an integrated solid waste management program for 25 years and beyond for all the citizens of Rutherford County. So the final item that was included in the RFP that you asked us to propose on was specific to landfill reclamation. So the county's current closed landfills sit immediately south of Middle Point, are expensive to maintain and require environmental remediation to comply with TDEC and EPA-approved closure and post-closure care plans. At Republic, we operate over 130 closed landfills of all different shapes and sizes, lined and unlined, across the United States. In fact, in my prior role at the area office out of Atlanta, I operated and was responsible for 17 of those closed landfills, so I'm very familiar with the complexities that go into monitoring a closed facility like this. By purchasing the county's landfills and implementing TDEC-approved closure and post-closure care plans, that's what we're proposing to do in our proposal. So how that looks is like this. So we would start by agreeing to purchase the county's landfills for a nominal price, just something to help the transaction. And then we would implement environmentally safe, TDEC-approved, long-term remediation solutions in those landfill facilities. This really gives three benefits directly to the taxpayers of Rutherford County. Number one, creates a more cost-effective solution, saving taxpayers what we're assuming is $20 million. It was an estimate from the county. The reason for that is we are taking on full liability forever for these. These are off the county's books forever. We increase disposal capacity. We move south onto this. There's options including, but not limited to, possibly a landfill mining or just consolidating the airspace there from these facilities. So you have increased disposal capacity without having to increase the footprint of landfill, which is a win-win for everyone. And finally, just ensuring a safer and more environmentally responsible management of these facilities, leveraging our experience. Of course, before we took any action with this, we would start with conducting an environmental due diligence effort to understand what the remediation requirements were for the facilities. And the other important piece that would have to happen is we would need to secure a permit from TDEC in order to have an expansion southward onto the county's landfill. Tried to jump to pricing for you guys too quick, but we're going to stick a little bit longer. So just to kind of wrap this up, should this option be selected by the county and once a permit is issued, the procedure looks like this. We would agree to purchase the property. We would propose a rate for all the material that's coming into the new landfill, which is really the mechanism we would use to pay for the remediation of the landfill facility, and then work with the county to evaluate long-term options, working with your existing solid waste staff. As Derek alluded to earlier, and I spoke about with the integrated plan on the prior slides, we envision this another expansion opportunity with MTSU to really enhance that True Blue Sustainability Initiative onto this new property. This would be a first of its kind situation, certainly a first of its kind in the state, which aligns with what you all are looking for in the interest to be leaders, and ultimately would lead to your goals of a better educated, more modern, and more sustainable community. So that wraps up through our generalities for the proposal. We're going to now jump to pricing and then turn it back over to Dan to bring us home. Got it. There you go.
Thanks, Mike. So just going to talk a little bit about pricing. So we've provided a comprehensive breakdown here that we are sure meets all the needs of the RFP put forth by Rutherford County. Broken it down by number of homes serviced to give you kind of an understanding of what we call the sliding scale or the economy of sale piece, right? This will show that as we get more folks to participate in the residential collection as well as recycling, it gives us an opportunity to reduce the price over the core group because of more folks participating. There's efficiencies that are going to be gained, so forth. If you look in the second row, it kind of explains really the focus of what we're doing from a collection standpoint. This includes a once-a-week municipal solid waste, 96-gallon container, collection, processing, disposal, as well as the public education portion that we already discussed. Also included in this is the bi-monthly recycling. We'll continue to operate the 15 convenience centers, which is listed here as well. As we get increased participations by the residents, we'll have an opportunity to look at the possible reduction of those convenience centers, but of course working with the county and officials in regards to what makes the most sense to keep open from a convenience standpoint for folks that are outliers or maybe do not want to participate in the residential collection or recycling collection. The big portion, I believe Mike had mentioned this as well, as you can see at the 100,000 home participation threshold, there's a significant reduction in price. That is also at the point where we would look to partner and build the state-of-the-art recycling center to help support the community and the desire that we have to become as green as possible. If there's no questions on the pricing piece, I'm going to go ahead and hand it to Mike and wrap us up here. Or, I'm sorry, Dan.
So you've seen what we are proposing and responding to the RFP and providing, and it hits all the elements of the RFP that you requested. This is something that we've been working on for some time, that we've looked at and said, you know, what is the real goal here? And that's to get a very much solid waste program that gets away from disposal and focuses on sustainability, recycling, and making the community greener as it grows. And it's a fast-growing community, and growth presents a lot of challenges, and being able to control your own destiny makes a big difference in being able to control what happens with that growth rather than having the growth happen to you. So you kind of go, why would you work with Republic? Well, we're vested here. We're going to invest here. You've got a company that's going to provide a modern integrated solid waste facility that's going to make the investment and has the financial wherewithal to make those investments so that those investments don't fall totally on the back of the taxpayer. We're willing to make those capital investments that are needed to handle the growth in the community and to make sure that there are assets here rather than having to have somebody else control what happens to you. We're going to implement a program that provides maximum diversion. You know, it's not just talk. If you listen to what our company is all about these days, it's not a disposal company anymore. We're a sustainability company. And it's shifting faster and faster. Wall Street has recognized it, and Wall Street has also recognized our success in moving to that direction. We know nobody likes landfills. It's very easy to get up and stand up and be against a landfill. It's a lot tougher to stand up and say, we're going to do what's right for the citizens as we move forward and what's right for the taxpayers moving forward. We're here to engage and educate the community on what it's going to take to be successful. Moving from 0 to 100 on recycling is not an easy task. It's changing the culture, it's changing the daily habits of people that have not had that opportunity, number one, to recycle, but also to get them in the habits to know what they can recycle and how to recycle. We hope to get to a point where municipal solid waste is going away. If we can get to that point, that's a goal of everybody that we go to. Will there be zero waste? I don't think in all of our lifetimes we're going to see that, but that's a goal and it's a good aspiration. We also think that following our due diligence and looking at taking care of the county's current landfill and the situation, the potential liability out there, is a major plus for the board to consider, to take a look at that and say, we take that off our books. We have the professional expertise to manage those facilities. We've done it before. We've done them all over. That takes a big liability off the county and takes a liability off the future residents here of having to deal with something. EPA regulations are changing on a daily basis. They're going to get more stringent. They're not going to get any easier, especially under this administration. And you have to be prepared to deal with that now as opposed to having it happen to you. So we're committed to a long-term, safe, affordable, and sustainable program that's environmentally responsible for the county, for the citizens, and for the taxpayers. And so we appreciate you giving us the opportunity to present. We appreciate being a community partner here, and we appreciate your vision in putting together a program and putting out this RFP to allow us to respond and to get the right information and the right education out there for the public. So thank you.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you, Mike, and thank you, Derek. Appreciate that. Now, I'm sure this committee has a bunch of questions, so if you guys want to just kind of
Where do you want us to hang out?
well, you can hang out right here. Just you can lean up against the pony wall there, whatever you'd like to do. So, guys, you don't have to ask my permission. Just raise your hand, and I will recognize you. Robert.
I don't mind jumping out. I made notes as you were talking, and one thing I will say is the plan is very comprehensive. You are basically asking, from what I've seen so far, you are the only one that's hit on everything we've asked about. But having said that, now I'm starting on my questions. First of all, I want to start with Mike. You've been here 2 months. Where do you live, Mike?
This is a great opportunity for me to say, if you know anywhere place I can find a house, I would absolutely be ready to jump on that. This market is absolutely insane. Actively looking to find a home. So currently, I'm in a transitional period. There's no question about that. But yeah, if you have anywhere that I could find, that'd be great. I'm looking everywhere, including near Middle Point. I think it is important for us to recognize that there are a lot of beautiful homes immediately around Middle Point. The north part of Murfreesboro has grown up wonderfully. I don't think that's happened in spite of Middle Point. I think that's happened in conjunction with Middle Point, as Middle Point provides a vital public service, right, to support the growth of these developers. So yeah, and there's wonderful people in those that we value as our neighbors.
Well, that's more than I wanted to know, but I appreciate that. And,
Yes, sir.
And basically, you hit on what I wanted to know was, how close are you to this landfill? And, I want to know if you've got skin in the game. The same thing with your buddy back there. Derek, where do you live?
So I live in Franklin right now.
That's enough.
Is that enough?
I appreciate it.
All right.
All right. Now, to get to my questions, one of the things you were talking about were the 3-step plans, and you talked about curbside and bi-monthly yard and hazardous waste pickups, and one of you touched on it just briefly. In the rural areas, of course, we're using the convenience centers. So what is your plan for the rural areas? Are you going to try to do curbside everywhere, or is that a long-term thing?
Sure, yeah, I'll take that one. So that would be something we would need to work with the county on. If we have folks that are in rural areas that either choose not to participate or just like the convenience of the location, then we would work with the county to figure out what makes the most amount of sense, right? So as you operate, as you have more participants in the recycling and the residential collection, in turn, that should reduce your need for convenience centers. Now, with that being said, I go to convenience center, right? So I know that there is a convenience to them, and so we would simply work with the county to identify what makes the most amount of sense for the future.
All right, thank you. I've got about 7 questions. I'll try to get through them quick as I can. You mentioned after 100,000 people were in, that you would build a modern facility. Where are you proposing to build this facility? And the reason I'm asking this, and especially back to Derek, since you're into transportation, that's one of my big beefs is we've got trucks running all over our roads, and we have to pay to maintain those. And that's why I want to know, if you're proposing to continue to bring waste in from outside of our county, which looks to me like that's what this plan is, then how are you going to take care of the roads, help us take care of these roads? And 2, where do you plan on putting that facility?
Sure. In regards to placement of facility, I don't believe we've gotten far enough down the road at that point to determine what that location would be. In regards to the maintenance within, or the maintaining, helping maintain the roads, you know, honestly, I don't know if Dan maybe has any insight from the host agreement.
Relative to placement of facilities, we've looked at property that we own.
Yeah.
So relative to placement of the facility, we've looked at property that we own. We also own property, other pieces of property around. We've also looked at the Matthews property out there. But one of the other issues that we're looking at is total reconfiguration of the entrances to where people go today, to extend that road to where, you know, there's a short apron now for trucks that go into the weigh station. We see that in the change as we move forward of moving that down the road, reconfiguring that to take the traffic off of that road on a basis. So the majority then of the heavy traffic that is sitting there is going to be sitting on our property, and we've got enough property over there on the Matthews side to be able to do that.
All right, next, if we decided to, you know, this RFP is pretty comprehensive. You're the only one, like I said, that I've noticed so far that has hit on every aspect. But if we chose a different company to do, say, one aspect of that, can you work with another company? Say if we decided we wanted a compost facility or some kind of waste of energy, if we decide to do that, can you work with another company and still integrate back and forth? And I don't know the best way to say that, but you see where I'm going.
Which we do. In a lot of cases, we work with third-party recyclers. We work with third parties on all different organics program. Our program in Las Vegas where we feed the hogs. We're working with a farmer, and he takes, you know, all the food waste and organics from us, but he runs that. He manages that portion of the thing. We just bring him the material, and we work and partner with people on every kind of different program across the country.
Okay, and let's see, Derek, you mentioned cost, and you said since there weren't any questions, you go on, and I. You know, of course, we said we'd wait to the end.
Sure, I appreciate
why I didn't jump in on there. The price that you put up there, how long will those stay in place?
Yeah, so
And I realize that, you know, it changes with how many people are in there, but
Sure.
let's just say you were at 100,000. I mean, how long is that price good for? Is that good for 10 years?
So part of, I apologize, but we got a bunch of small print on the side there, but it should be in your decks. So the pricing is based off annual CPI, according to where I think the waste index is at that point. And then in regards to the pricing in general, and this is what I'll say, we built a robust pricing system trying to accomplish everything that was asked in the RFP. Right, and so what I'll say about that is, given an opportunity to sit down at the table and say, well, we like this, but we don't like this, gives us that ability to work with whatever you think is going to meet the needs of Rutherford County. But based on this model, to answer your question, CPI would be an annual piece.
All right. I'll take that for now.
Okay.
The next two things that I've got, you know, you may like to hear, you may not, but I think sooner or later they'll need to be asked. And first of all, I want to say I'm glad to see that you have a biosystems engineer working on that. My heart's kind of close to biosystem engineers since my youngest daughter is one. But having said that, one of the things that I want to know, and as far as future plans with you guys, and one of the problems that I have is the smell, and I want to know how that's going to be mitigated, you know. And let me just go ahead and throw my last question out here. One thing too, which is adding to this, is we're taking trash from outside of this county, and I understand there's a cost incentive there. And I understand that we make money off that too. But I understand it costs us for infrastructure, keeping up the roads, all the above. And one thing I personally would like to see is to slow down or not take outside county trash. And part of what could help y'all and us with that is a lot of our trash, you know, I think we got, 40,000 tons a year coming from the county, about that or a little more from the city, but we generate a lot more trash than that. It's not all going to you. I don't know how we can change that so that we could actually divert more instead of leaving this county to stay here, and that's something maybe we can explore together if we decide to go with y'all. But anyway, that's something that I'd like to hear y'all's thoughts on, so maybe how we can, I'm tired of being a dump for the whole central part of this state, and I understand that there is a need and we're going to have a landfill somewhere. I understand that. I think everybody here does, even if we don't like it, just like Dan's told me several times. But I'll stop there, but talk about the smell, talk about out-of-county trash.
Sure. So to your first question, what are we going to do about the smell? So, you know, we take extreme pride and extreme value in being a good neighbor in the community. All right, that's something that I think we continuously focus on. And first of all, you know, really appreciate all of the folks that have contributed or commented about odors that they're maybe observing in the community. What I'll say is this: starting about 3 years ago, we embarked on a pretty aggressive campaign to manage, expand our landfill gas collection and destruction system at the facility, with the intention of managing any odors on site and preventing the opportunity for off-site odors. Since about 2018, that's resulted in $15 million of capital investment, including expansions to a lot of our gas mover equipment. And right now, this year, we're in a $2.8 million campaign, which really is sort of the last piece of that long-term strategic initiative to improve our ability to manage odors on site. That will be complete in July of this year, is when we're anticipating that project be complete. And I am absolutely confident to stand up here and tell you this, that you know, in a point in the not too distant future, we will no longer be having a conversation about the off-site odors. About the off-site odors. So that's your first point. You know, the other piece, and I guess just talking to my experience a little bit, you know, I think that's the other piece here, is that in addition to that investment, you know, having me move up from our area office, and my role there was to manage the engineering, environmental compliance, and construction for all of Republic's 30 active landfill facilities across the southeast United States, of which Middle Point was one. I think we made a corporate decision that locally we need a little bit more technical horsepower up here to allow me and our team to focus on the situation at Middle Point full time. And that's what we've done here starting the last 2 months, and we're going to continue to aggressively do that no matter what. I think it's important to say, expansion or no expansion, we demand of ourselves an extremely high standard, and that standard is managing our odors on site. To your second question, is that can you restate it briefly?
Out of county waste.
Yes. Can we just not take out of county waste? Is that effectively your question, I think?
Yes, or at least reduce it drastically.
Sure. You know, as we understand your vision as elected officials here, and the vision that you laid out in the RFP, that is to have a fully fledged, modern, integrated solid waste management system. A key part of that is having a cash-producing asset, which the landfill is, in order to subsidize all of those other programs that is in your vision. So it's important that we understand that that is getting subsidized via out-of-county dollars that's coming from your host fee. So, you have anything to add to that, Dan?
And then a couple things,
Oh, pardon me. Yes.
So a couple things we want to address misconception-wise. We always get quoted in the paper that you're taking waste from, you know, where Middle Tennessee's dumping ground, and you're taking waste from 36 counties and all this stuff. Majority of the waste comes from Davidson County and from Rutherford County. That's about 85% of the waste that comes here. The rest, we may take a load from somebody from Smith County and stuff, but we have to report that to TDEC. That's an out-of-county waste. And then, that gets check marked as, oh, well, you're taking all the waste from Smith County. That's not true. That's not accurate. So we look at that, and the other thing that we look at here is the county grows, Rutherford County grows, the program's going to transcend. Our assets are going to transcend. And, when Rutherford County hits 500,000 people or 600,000 people or whatever, that's probably, we're not going to be able to take other people's waste. We're going to be here, and there's going to be enough, configuration here, hopefully, to be able to keep the waste here. And the other thing is, we don't know long-term where Nashville's going to take their waste. We've only got a agreement to a certain point, and so that may not be an issue, coming down the road.
Of course, that's part of the reason I asked where we were talking about building a facility. We've been on this committee long enough, and we've looked at trash long enough. We're pretty realistic about, where this is coming from, what the future looks like. If we decided to build a facility there, personally, I'm thinking rail. We're talking to our hauling guy here, or somewhere where we're keeping traffic off of our roads, not just for congestion and safety, but, and also for our infrastructure needs of having to pay for this. So that's why it's important to me to get a good idea of what the possibilities are.
The other issue we look at relative to where we're going to put the recycling facility and other stuff, it gets down to the same issue you got at Middle Point as to where's it going to go, because nobody wants anything. I was listening to the zoning meeting before, and nobody wanted whatever that was going to be built, and I didn't catch what was going to be built, but nobody wanted it in their neighborhood. So you got those issues that are still going to pop up that become a challenge that, we have to work with our partner, this being the county, to find what's the right solution and what's the right location. We're not just going to go say and tell you this is where we're going to put it. We also do, when we look at any kind of facility like that and building, and if we're going to be dropping $30 million, we're going to be doing traffic studies, comprehensive traffic studies to understand where's the movement in and out, what's the load bearing on things like that. You got to look at the entire picture when we look at that, especially when we're going to invest that kind of money.
Well, I'm going to stop asking questions because I know these guys got as many as I do and more. So, but thank you for your answers.
Chairman Harris, you are recognized.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan. All right. Commissioner P touched on a lot of things. I want to touch on relationship, because you got up here and you said, that we control our own destiny and all that. Mike, you read the paper?
I do.
You read social media?
I'm not on social media, but I do read it, yep.
You heard it?
Yep,
Okay,
absolutely.
so you heard your public enemy number one, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How do you feel that you're going to repair? How do you going to repair this relationship? Because we talk relationship, we're talking about control our destiny. So this is the point of my questions. It's all about relationships. These guys will get into the technical part of it, but I want to know how to repair a relationship or not.
We certainly are aware of the feeling of some vocal folks in the community about, including elected officials, about the recent proposal to expand. I think that's specifically what you're talking about. Look, we value those and appreciate hearing from everyone, because again, there's no way that this relationship moves forward positively unless everyone has a voice. We respect everything that each other are saying, and we find the best way to move forward together. I would say that of the 3,000 folks that have signed a petition, for example, we have 329,000 other folks in Rutherford County that are enjoying free disposal and are enjoying access to all of our solid waste services for a significantly more economical cost than they could had it be a different arrangement. So I absolutely hear that there are things that we want to do better from a relationship standpoint, and we're the guys that are going to do that. But again, I think it starts with listening to each other, making sure that both sides are heard, and then working together towards that common goal.
Well, as far as being a public servant, there's two things that we get bombarded with when it comes to Republic. It's odor and out of county trash. So my question to you is, I'm going to go back to the recycling and composting. It says on your RFP that you are future foreseeable future. Okay, then you put up on the graph 100K, and then you can build a facility. So we have talked to a lot of people on RFPs, and they have ideas and innovation, but we don't have enough trash to fully implement what they want. So we have always said the question, taking outside trash. So my question to you is, if we allowed you to take outside trash, could you not build that facility immediately?
Say that again.
Okay, if we allowed you to take outside trash,
As we're
could you
currently
not, as you're doing that, could we not build that facility immediately? Instead of, foreseeable future to me doesn't work, because it doesn't tell me a time, it doesn't tell us anything. It's just you saying, we're going to offer you a trinket. But what we want to know is, will that recycling facility be immediately if you had outside trash coming in?
Well, it wouldn't be outside trash. Obviously, we don't want trash in the recycling center. The issue becomes how fast can we get the major cities here, as well as the county, to adopt recycling. This is not a build it and they will come business. This is like, there needs to be some, on the ordinance side or regulation side, and this is not novel, this is everywhere around the country, that to get those programs in place, there has to be some government activity. People aren't going to be raising their hand to say, I want to pay more to recycle. There has to be some activity and action taken by this body to say, we're committed to this, and if you pass an ordinance now, that's going to change the dynamics for us immediately, because we know that there is going to be, that many cans on the street every day. Once you start that changes and accelerates our line. When the question was asked in the RFP, is that going to be a mandatory or going to be an authorized activity regulated that you have to have recycling, are there going to be ordinances passed? The response came back as no. And so that is how we got to the response and how we responded to the RFP, is that we think we can get there. It's going to take a lot of work and education on our own, but to get it to accelerate, you come here and the cities are out there and say, we're going to start recycling today. And it's pretty easy. I mean, there's a lot of free money that we've been out there that could be invested in recycling assets and recycling infrastructure today. We've been talking about it. I was up here in 2017 and we wanted to build a recycling center, and everything got shut down, and where we're at is we need to act now to be able to get the resident, because the residents want it. We've talked to Recycle Rutherford. We've been to the meetings, the community meetings. They want to recycle. They need to have that opportunity, and they've got to have a mechanism to do it. And they also, I think, recognize by now they're going to have to pay for it. Things don't come free, so that's a challenge. That's the thing that's moving the timeline, is how are we going to make them be participation? And where I live, it's mandatory, and I live in a rural area, but recycling's mandatory.
I'm glad you brought up ordinances. You want us to pass ordinances so to help you on trash and recycling, correct? Okay. So we have a current contract with you that was in 1988. All right, and there's certain things in this contract that are pretty outdated. My question to you concerning ordinances is, one of the ordinances in this contract is where we can't hold you accountable for smell. Would you renegotiate that contract to where we have the ability to have ordinances?
We think that one of the undiscussed issues here is where does the entire host agreement go, and what's can be the benefit to the county in renegotiating the host agreement. And yeah, it's an old document, and as things change, things need to be updated. So that's you know, something that it would be on the table. What we see as a negotiation is to what's going to be overall in that host agreement.
So everything's up for negotiation?
Everything would be
That's
up
your
for
answer?
yes.
Okay, good. It has been reported that Murfreesboro City is completely believes that y'all are the sole reason of the odor in Murfreesboro. Do you agree with that statement?
I'm not going to stand up here and say other people are contributing to odor or they're not. Ultimately, I don't really know if other people are. There very well could be. What I can say is, you know, we want to take care of our business, and that's what we're focusing on every single day. So our priority is ensuring that we have a facility acting as a good neighbor, holding ourselves to an extremely high standard, which limits our potential for off-site odor.
So I don't know if that's an answer or not, but I'll go with it. So my next question is, we know that someone was replaced and Mike is taking his job. So one of the things that we had talked about this with the other person that was in charge, and they told us that this problem would be going away. So why should we believe that you were the answer?
Yeah, look, if I was in your shoes, I would be asking the exact same question. I would be saying, why is this time any different, right? I think we've talked about a few of the reasons specifically why. That is the significant investment over the last 3 years, and this is a process. This is a long-term strategic initiative of investment that helps update our infrastructure to the place it needs to be. So that's happening, $15 million plus $2.8 million this year. Secondly, we talked about bringing a little bit higher horsepower of technical expertise on-site, boots on the ground, every single day, controlling we have upwards of 15 vendors who are on-site every single day helping us manage our gas system. That's something that we're absolutely focusing on. There's two other things that we haven't talked about. The first is we've developed a proprietary odor reporting app. So that's something that we encourage all of the citizens to reach out with, to tell us when they are observing something, if they're observing, and then we can go back to the drawing board understanding that odor is an extremely complex issue. Wind direction, duration, characterization of the smell, all of those things will allow us to either confirm or refute in our own minds if there is the potential for that off-site odor. The second piece is, you know, we're doing all of this, or the third piece is we're doing all of this by, I think, with significantly more collaboration with our elected officials. Specifically, you know, we have reached out to the Public Works Department of City of Murfreesboro and said, we know you have data about odors. Let's collaborate with that. Let's talk about it. Let's understand what it actually means here, engineer to engineer. Have invited them out to our facility to look real time at what we're doing from a construction standpoint, to say, hey, here's the specific things that we're doing which we think will limit our ability, our potential for off-site odor, and make sure that we're opening up the curtain and letting everybody in. Again, this is a partnership. This is the only way that we move forward. You talked about relationship, is by doing those exact things.
Okay, I have one last question. It's for you, Dan. Why did you put an application in for extension?
Well, there are a couple things. Number one, it was you know, I read with amusement a bit in the newspapers that it was a surprise that we were going to do this. This was in our RFI response back in September. It was in our RFP response as to how did we solve the 25-year option possibility. We made a decision at the corporate level, made the decision to move forward with that. Given the fact that there was some movement in the county next to us relative to, you know, what was being done to try to stop part of that comprehensive plan. And you know, our people made a decision that, you know, If you recall, in 2017, we wanted to do some drilling on your property to see what was feasible, and we left here with a either 21 or 24 to 0 vote to say, you're never going to touch our landfill. And so, our corporate people at the highest level, and we implored upon them, said, hey, we're going through the middle of the RFP process, and they said, hey, fool me once, shame on me, and that's where we got to that decision. It was a decision that was not made locally. It was a decision that was made to protect our business. We've got a business here. We not only have the landfill business, we have a very large hauling company here, and it should be just like somebody coming out to your company and say, we're going to take this by, eminent domain and shut your business down. And essentially, we've got business interests to protect.
If I may add just one piece to that, just from a timing standpoint, we talked a little bit about today how we have 6.5 years of disposal capacity remaining at Middle Point. We expect, with multiple rounds of public comment, a significant amount of engineering and technical investigation that has to happen. Again, the Part 1 application that's submitted is really more an intent to submit. It's very general. It's saying, hey, this is what we're going to do. We want the public to be aware of it. And after we execute all of our environmental due diligence and engineering, we will then submit the formal application, which is called the Part 2 application, at which point there are numerous checks and balances for the community to come back and say, we have public comment opportunity. So we have 6.5 years of disposal capacity remaining. Based on our best estimates, we anticipate that this process could take up to 6 years. So in order to be a responsive bidder to the county's RFP, where you specifically ask us for 25 years of disposal capacity, we really have no choice but to submit for the application in the timing that we did.
You also want to explain the footprint issue that, we've discussed as to, this isn't, we're not doubling.
Yeah, that's a great point. So I think a good opportunity right now, in case it's a future question, to talk about, there's been a lot of information out there in the media about how we're doubling the amount of waste we're doing. We're doubling in size. What's important to know is this is a long-term plan where it gives us a footprint to grow into over 30 years. We are absolutely not proposing to increase the amount of waste we take into Middle Point landfill on a daily basis. Our intent is to be exactly like what we're doing right now and to grow in lockstep with the growth of Rutherford County and its communities. So that's an important item to clarify. Thanks, Dan.
Mr. Chairman.
Shanto.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have heard about the smell too, when I was in the room. So this is addition to the Commissioner P, Chairman Harris, mentioned. So I'd like to share with you. Not so long, so he wouldn't be able to stay with us. He had to go to someone. Derek, you mentioned about the several things, community involvement and so on and so forth, publication and education. And the last part you said. Publication had to be in bilingual. Rutherford County, we have more than 2 languages speaking, so I think might be share with us would be good. I speak bilingual too myself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can work with the community in regards to what would be necessary for informational, educational
The
pieces.
facility that you went to in San Jose, we do in 19 languages.
Yeah, the ability is there, absolutely.
Wayne?
Mr. Chairman, I think I have about 4 different questions. So your plan for our solid waste solution is to bury and cover and recycle. Is that correct? And let me give you a caveat. For the last 2 years, we've heard about the diminishing position of the recycling market, and that it really wasn't a viable option for us. So when did that change?
Recycling.
The recycling markets, so there was a fundamental shift in the recycling markets when China shut everything off. Most of the domestic recyclable material was being shipped overseas. When China, what was called the China sword situation came out, it put a big shock to the recycling system across the country. We're pleased to say that a lot of that has shifted. So the American ingenuity, a lot of the paper plants have now that were closed in the U.S. are being bought out and reopened. And, you know, we have markets now. The price of recycled goods has come back. We have markets. And as the U.S. would make it, innovation has jumped in, and there's a lot of people that are using now the plastic materials. So we're finding outlets, and again, we have a comprehensive group that travels around the country, travels around the world to understand where the markets are going and where materials are at. We have no problem now getting rid of material and finding material. Now, is there a cost to that program? Yeah, it fundamentally changed the cost structure of recycling for the United States. As part of that, because people are opening new plants, building new plants, et cetera, so they have to get paid for. But there are markets now for the materials, some not as robust as others, and that's why we kind of looked at as to how do we phase in, make it most successful starting off, build into those other materials that are in there, and then you get eventually, you know, you get to harder types of recycled materials. You know, you see now, you know, soup comes in a packet. Technically, they say that packet's recyclable. Nobody's buying it, but it's recyclable. And so you got to find outlets and you got to develop those, and that's what our recycling people do. Through this process over the last 4 years, we've gone out and helped develop those develop partners, and found outlets for the material. And so we think it makes sense, and you know, that's the maximum way to get things out of the landfill, is to get that, make a sustainable kind of a circular economy to get those things back and reused again.
You mentioned a third-party involvement. Is that a different processing, like a gasification that we've had some presentations on?
Not initially would not look at that, but you know, we're not you know, opposed, as Commissioner P mentioned, you know, working with other third parties. Eventually, you know, as time goes by, somebody's going to find the magic bullet, and something's going to work. And we're not opposed to partnering with anybody. That somebody finds something that is out there. Is we've got some partners that we're closely monitoring that have some good solutions that are out there. Not yet working on a scale that would say this will work on a scale to turn something, you know, into something else. People are going to get there, and that's why we think, you know, as you look at the comprehensive solutions, and we talked about, you know, out-of-county waste and things like that, a lot of this stuff is going to pivot and shift and change, and we're going to be at the forefront of those opportunities. We're a big company. We've got the assets. We've got the ability to make those investments, and we have also the ability that we'll take the risk as opposed to you and the taxpayers taking the risk on building facilities, because there's been a lot of facilities across the U.S. that have promised a lot of things, that have not opened, or they're closed today and never achieved their goals.
If I could. So just to add a little bit to that as well is, today we currently utilize third-party companies for some of our recycling. Like we run recycling routes today with our residential team. So in the initial phase one of the pricing or the proposal, where you saw once a week solid waste and then bi-monthly recycling, it would be available from day one. So we would have that option out there. The economies of scale piece that we talked about, and you've probably heard from other folks that have met with you in response to the RFP, is you have to get to a certain threshold to make it a viable business model to build your own recycling center. With that said, though, day one, there is going to be that recycling proposal, that's recycling option. So we'll just utilize our third-party vendor that we do today.
Okay. Hypothetically, say the conceptual land use plan was in effect. The traffic volume from your vehicles and just our normal traffic flow would just overwhelm 231 and Jefferson Pike. Who would you expect to be responsible to improve that infrastructure around your facility?
Yeah, so trafficking and traffic plan going into major, like for example, if the recycling facility were to go at the landfill and be an integrated plan, it goes back to, I think, some of the things Dan said to Commissioner Harris, is that all of those pieces are certainly negotiable. You know, we certainly have agreements with other communities where it says, okay, you're going to be bringing this many trucks in addition to a host agreement, we expect you to maintain this road or pay us some amount for this road use. So that is on the table. I think it's something that would have to be evaluated based on the number of trucks that are coming in and some engineering analysis, of course. But yeah, that's exactly how we would handle it.
On your exceptions page in the back, title to waste material, that statement is pretty legalese to me. Could you explain it to me in layman term? Could you repeat that? I'm sorry. In your exception page to the RFP, it says title to waste material.
Is that page 80, Wayne? The last page.
Yeah, so that it is legalese, is that usually, and this is pretty much in all of our contracts, that I think this was referring to probably something that was in the RFP, but usually title to the waste material, once, if it's non-hazardous, we take responsibility. We take responsibility for that waste when it's loaded into our vehicles or otherwise received by the company. Unacceptable waste that comes in, somebody that's bringing in material that is not acceptable. So somebody trying to sneak in a radiated load or something that you have detectors on, we don't accept title to that waste as something comes in.
This refers to non-hazardous municipal solid waste.
Well, that part is, yeah, it says here, if it's defined as non-hazardous municipal solid waste, the title to that passes to us. We'll take responsibility for that. We will not take responsibility for non-municipal solid waste that's defined as hazardous by the EPA.
That's consistent language in all of our waste contracts.
Okay. This should be my last one. Coming off the back of Commissioner Harris's question, I received an email saying that you had paused the application for the expansion. Does that mean that you're not doing any of the hydrological studies, that you actually have paused, that there's nothing going on behind the scenes, that for all practical purposes this application has been withdrawn? I would think that would be a better term.
So I'm glad you asked that. Thanks for that question. So to clarify, and I think everyone here was addressed on the letter that came from me that I signed. What that letter said was, because we were listening to what you had said and you wanted us to sort of hold tight on moving forward with our application process until the RFP process had an opportunity to run its course, we were voluntarily committing to not submitting our Part 2 application until 1 year from the original RFP date. Kind of as I alluded to earlier to your question, just drawing that distinction between a Part 1 and a Part 2 application. With Part 1 going in, we really don't know a lot of things. So it could be, a lot of times Part 2 can be submitted as early as 6 months from the submittal of Part 1. It could be a year and a half from submittal of Part 1. We're really just way too early in the process to know. So we are committing to not submitting Part 2 of our application until 1 year. So it's February of next year. In the background, we certainly are still doing our due diligence to understand what goes into the development of Part 2. And again, that could be done in 6 months. And if that is the case, we are not going to submit that application until the date we committed to you all in that letter that I sent.
If in fact we continue to delay, we get to 6 years and nobody's got a permit, where's Rutherford County's waste going to go to? That's a risk for the county, it's a risk for the company, and a risk for the residents that there's no place to go to. And so, you know, we, like I said, the part one is a conceptual drawing. We don't know how much that's going to work, whether it's going to work at all. And that's why they're doing the due diligence part.
But there's nothing ongoing, there's nothing else going on behind the scenes as far as studies or anything like that because you have paused the application?
No, again, that would be putting words into our mouth. I want to be absolutely clear that what we have committed to doing is not submitting Part 2 until 1 year from the date we indicated, which is mid-February of 2022. Again, there is a significant amount of background evaluation that's required to happen. That could take anywhere from 6 months to several years. We really don't know yet. We are literally just at the very burgeoning of this process. So that's going to continue ongoing, and no matter what happens, a Part 2 submittal will not be submitted until February of next year.
Phil, we're kind of going down the road. Do you want to jump in now or hold
Yeah,
off?
thank you. Yeah, and I will defer to the wisdom of these guys on a lot of stuff. But I do want to, maybe you, Derek, you presented this slide. So walk me through your pricing structure. The $22.62 is per household?
Yes, sir. That's per household per month for both weekly MSW, so normal solid waste, and bi-monthly recycling.
And the convenience center operation, explain to me, walk me through the $7.5 million reference and how the $17.86 relates to $7.5 million per year.
So we broke that down to per month. So if we had 35,000 participants, divided that by, you could do the math, that's 7.5 divided by the 35,000 divided by 12. So what we were trying to do is conceptually have folks understand, as a resident of Rutherford County, what would it cost me day one for recycling bi-monthly, MSW weekly, as well as continuing to have now us operate the 15 convenience centers. It's going to cost me $40.48 per month. Now this is, along with this includes the public education, the outreach piece, so it's everything that was asked for in the RFP kind of bundled in. And I believe, I don't know which one, over maybe Robert, it was you, but had asked something in regards to, I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought now at this point. But anyways, it had asked somewhere in regards to, you know, what goes into that particular pricing. So
the some $17 million a year, if it's 35,000 people, 48 a month times 12. Whatever that comes up to is your anticipated
yes, sir. Yeah.
expense recouped by fees. The fee would pay $17 million a year, and that's your anticipated cost to handle those tons. Just do the math. Yeah, times 35,000 times 12.
And then progressively, you would see, and as most folks in the room understand, right, the economy of scale, right? So as we're able to become more efficient, so forth, more participants, we're able to start to reduce the price, which also goes into the convenience center with the reduction of the need for a convenience center. Those are, as everyone knows, very expensive to operate.
Okay. And Craig, I did want you to note, I think it was Craig that asked, the pricing is valid for 120 days. I think, was that Robert or Craig one asked? And I don't know if the CPI would defer to that, but the 120 days is the commitment.
The RFP, you know, when negotiations start, you know, that's starting from the beginning of negotiations.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is everything that was asked, right? Then if awarded an opportunity to sit down at the table, then it's a matter of what levers do we like, what do we not like? And then, so this could adjust. It's just simply based on what was asked.
Understood. So the pricing is based on CPI. That 120 days is not referencing how good how you might raise prices. I understand. The 120 days is just referencing the RFP.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yes, sir. And also, just to point out, and Dan, the landfill remediation piece as well, which is part of the proposal, is also baked into this price, if you will. Right, so there's obviously unknowns in regards to that until we did the necessary step, or took the necessary steps. But, so that's also baked into this as well, to give us an understanding of what was asked in the RFP and us trying to accommodate all those things.
The reclamation component.
Yeah, of the
So
landfill. The remediation of the, I think it's the city,
So that,
the county owned.
that segues in then, if you don't get the expansion, or you don't get the Rutherford County landfill, is everything here off the table?
No, I think an opportunity is, it's all dependent on, listen, if we don't get an expansion, right? So if we're at 6.5 years, right now? On the life, well, yeah, he was saying, maybe repeat the question, it's maybe a better one for Mike than
There are some
myself.
references in your RFP that suggest this becomes moot if you don't get your expansion. So
There, you got the whole transportation component. If our closest landfill is out of state, and so we're going to be taking it a long distance, that transportation cost, right, is not included and is not included in our numbers.
So if you don't get an expansion, none of this works with the numbers you presented.
That's a fair statement.
Right.
Yeah.
And on the flip side of that, if your decision is that there is no reclamation or remediation of the county landfill, the shift goes the other way, right, to the favorable with a lower cost option. So we had to imbue in this some assumptions, right, based on a single price, so you sort of get exactly a number that you can use for planning. But those are two big things that will shift either way, certainly. Yeah.
Complete for now? That leaves Mr. Piercy, and then myself, and then Mr. Mayor, and then Magnolia, and then Rachel, and Becky.
My first question is for the transportation gentleman. I've noticed the BWI trucks are going away, and we've got new trucks in their area with different names. Can you tell me why? MBI.
MBI.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you want to take this one because this has to do with the transfer station?
Yeah.
He asked about there's new trucks on the road versus MBI.
Yeah, sure thing. So our contract with MBI terminates the end of May, and so we are phasing in a new hauler. So it's not new trucks on the road, or it's not more trucks on the road. It's just a phasing out of one and phasing in with another.
Now, my question I have for you, you made comments a while ago about the media talking about you were going to double the amount of trash in the landfill. Is this on?
It's hard to hear you, but
And then you made the comment that you weren't going to double it just overnight. It was going to be a 30-year period, correct? You were going to add to it for a 30-year period.
we're going to operate it effectively exactly as we're operating today.
At the end of that 30-year period, do you have any estimated amount of how many metric tons or cubic yards of trash will be in that landfill that's not there today?
We really don't. So again, we're at the stage of this Part 1 application, which is simply a map with a boundary saying, you know, here's big picture what we're thinking, TDEC and Central Tennessee Solid Waste Region Board want you to be aware and then bring it to your attention, right? So that's the extent of the engineering or evaluation that's happened related to our expansion.
So there's really no way you could stand there and actually say, no, it's not going to double, right?
So in order for it to double, we would have to find double the waste somewhere, bring in double the hauling capacity, and double that flow to us. That simply doesn't exist in the market right now. So I think, yes, we can confidently stand here and tell you that day one of the expansion, we're just going to continue operating exactly as we're operating with regard to what waste is coming in.
I've got two more and then I'll quit. Is there any part of your RFP you have submitted to this committee that you can or will do without an expansion or acquiring the county landfill?
I think everything in this RFP is up for negotiation. Like, our intention is to be the vehicle that y'all can use to help you achieve what your vision is for the county. And if that's the decision, we would certainly be open to that. Our recommendation is that that is not the right move. As we've said already, Middle Point is an absolute asset to this community. We understand that there's some frustrations with Middle Point. We understand that there's some discouragement, but you have our commitment as a good neighbor and a long-standing citizen of the community that those things we will rectify, and we'll do that every single day, holding ourselves to an extremely high standard. So I would say, yes, it's up for negotiation. It would dramatically change the pricing that you're seeing here, again, because the destination would be out of our control and would be out of your control. They would have no control over where that waste is going to. Realistically, it would be transferred to a location out of county, or it would have to. That airspace or that disposal capacity would rapidly fill up, and then you're going to a location further away. So that's probably the best response to that.
So in going around the barn, the answer is really no.
No, the answer is absolutely. Everything in that our RFP response is up for negotiation. If expansion doesn't go through, that changes a fundamental component of having long-term disposal capacity within the community, which the RFP specifically asked for. So it would change the pricing and some of the other strategy that goes into it. But again, we want to be your partner here. And if ultimately that says we just, as Rutherford County, we want to take our waste, we don't want to put it in Middle Point, we want to send it to Alabama, we can help you do that, but we don't believe that's the right thing to do for the citizens of Rutherford County.
But if we were just hired as a municipal hauler, we do that, we have municipal contracts.
Use your mic, use the mic, Dan.
If we were just hired as a municipal hauler to haul contracts, yeah, that part of the proposal, we'd still be we still haul waste. That's what we do, and we pick it up, and every day. But the prices can be dramatically different given the fact of where it's going to go.
Okay, here's a question that might help us on the prices. Would it be possible? Of course, you take our trash now supposedly for no fee. Would it be possible for you to stop taking out of county trash, take all of Rutherford County's trash, and charge us a fee, and then our trash will stay right here in our county with minimum transportation costs in your landfill and pay you a tipping fee to put it in there, and that would surpass our purpose for a landfill for a long time? Is that possible?
There's always that potential. Like we said, we don't know where in a few years where Nashville's waste is going to go. So the issue is, like, as we told Craig, all the stuff that's in the host agreement and what that would cost, we haven't calculated that. But is it feasible? I'm not going to say it's not. And as the county grows, we'll see. But, is it feasible? Yes. Is it realistic? You're not really sure. I don't think so. I don't think it's realistic, given the fact that there's no disposal capacity in the state of Tennessee.
And I really do want to re-emphasize the value of having a modern landfill facility here, which is responsibly managing the waste for your community right here. In addition to having free disposal, you're also getting a revenue generation component from your host fees. Modern landfills are very expensive to run. There's the reason why we've seen consolidation of small county landfills across the state into larger, more regional facilities. We're one of the most regulated types of facility in all of the United States by the EPA. So I just want to emphasize the fact that in order to help you, it is all negotiable, but in order to help you best achieve your vision here for an integrated solid waste management system with all of these other components that are revenue neutral or typically revenue negative, they need to be funded somehow. And that funding mechanism is best served through subsidies, through out-of-county waste disposal, and through free disposal for your constituents.
I've got one more comment for you. Don't take it personal. Are you married?
Not currently married.
Married or not, don't buy a house on the north side of Murfreesboro. Go to the other side. I live on this side. I'm speaking from experience. I think y'all have put on an excellent RFP. I really do. But you've come into this with the direction we were trying to head away from. We were trying to come up with other measures with our trash other than burying it in the earth. And with expansion talk, acquiring a landfill, you know, that's one the direction we were headed.
Well, A, we were responding for capacity issue. B, I think to get your goal is, you know, this community needs to commit and begin recycling. Because I think once you get that 40% out of the landfill, and then you go on to be able to get food waste, organics out of that landfill, you're going to get to where you want to be by getting that maximum diversion. And, you know, that's the way to get there, to make it so it is, you know, much less of an issue. You know, it pains me, given the company that we are at, to go to Middle Point and seeing tons of aluminum cans and plastic bottles going into that landfill. Because it's just not right from a sustainability standpoint. And you know, we need to begin, this is a pretty growing and a great community that needs to be in the recycling business, and it needed to start some time ago. And you know, there have been mechanisms to fund that, and that's the direction we think, you know, we've laid out. There are ways to fund this to make it so it's just not total sticker shock. The other thing, you guys have a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers as well. And yeah, everything's got a cost, and the question is going to be how much does it cost and what makes sense, and where can you get to a level where it makes sense not only for us, for you, more importantly, for that resident who's a senior citizen, then all of a sudden, you know, they're paying $60 a month because they're shipping their trash to Alabama. Not going to be a lot of happy campers out there. And you know, we've got to get to something that makes sense for the community. And we think to get there by recycling as the first step is going to take everybody towards a long way towards making that happen and eliminating a lot of the other issues that arise.
Good.
Eric, I have been where you are today. Republic is a pair of pants. The hauling company is one pocket and the landfill is the other, but it's still the same company. To go back to that slide you had, Becky, please. To get those 35 customers, who's going to go after them?
I'm sorry?
To get the 35,000 customers, who is going to go after those customers?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be in partnership with the county. You know, it's part of the community outreach, the public education. You know, it'd be working with the local leaders here to say, how do we best get participation? Because that's what's going to drive the machine.
You currently have several private subscription customers within the county. Would they become the first 35,000, or is that 35,000 in addition to what you already have?
So if they were within the county borders, at that point, yeah, it would transition to county customers as part of that 35,000.
Okay. So who is the customer? The individual resident or the government?
It depends on how the contract's structured.
Yeah, it's how it's structured.
We have places where we do direct bill, and we do have places where it's consolidated bill with the government entity. And that's, you know, just a preference based on, you know, how people want to pay. Some people pay their solid waste fees through the property tax. You know, some people charge them as separate residents, some people charge it with the water bill, Some people charge with a sewer bill. That's handled different all the way around in different places around the country.
Most of these type contracts, the government is your actual customer, and you send one bill and the government pays that bill. Is that correct?
A summary bill?
A summary bill.
Sure.
Okay. And so you're over the hauling company.
That's correct.
I'm over the county convenience centers, and I help haul some of the recycles out of the city convenience center, but the city convenience center is closed most often because it's full. Can you explain why that's happening?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the last part?
The city of Murfreesboro's convenience center is full more often, and the reason we know because we get the phone calls. So why is it not getting hauled as often as it needs to be hauled?
Well, I don't believe that we are hauling the convenience centers today.
The city of Murfreesboro's you do.
For the city, we are.
Okay, for the city. So is the question, why are they not getting hauled? I would have to look at the individual situation. It's unfortunately, I don't want to misspeak and say a certain reason when it's not. So unfortunately, I can't answer that question right now for you.
So the next question is my philosophy, maybe not yours. If we were to go this direction, City of Murfreesboro currently picks up their 41,000, somewhere in that neighborhood, 46,000 residential homes and a few businesses. Smyrna, Laverne, Eagleville are the other municipalities. They don't have solid waste departments. They have private subscriptions. Then we have large subdivisions within the county. So would it be part of y'all's proposal that each of those municipalities wind up with curbside collection right off the bat?
Yeah, so I think it would all be determined based on our discussions, right? When does it need to take place? If the if the response is a month from now, you need to be able to pick up an additional 100,000 homes next week, that's an undertaking, right? So we would have to have the proper time to plan, to be able to execute on what is going to be the needs of the county.
That is a very large undertaking. So is that something that you as a company would try to do all in-house, or something that you would try to put out for bid for the current private haulers to take over?
Sure thing. Yeah, no, we operate very large municipalities today. And so the size and scope is something well within our fundamental reaches that we do all over this country, which quite honestly, it makes us expert in that field, right? We're a logistics-based company. And so we have the necessary tools and resources and expertise to be able to deliver on that.
I'm sure y'all deal with it occasionally. It doesn't happen that often, but a customer will call and say, "You missed my trash." Who does that customer going to call?
Once again, we have cities that we work with that will handle it, whatever is going to work best for them. Some municipalities would like that call to go directly into the city. Therefore, they track it, and then they work in collaboration with our local team to say, Mrs. Jones was missed at this address. Can you please go get it? Some go directly through our customer call center, and so that way we're notified. So it depends on how the county and the local leaders would like to set it up.
Okay, at that price that you have listed, does that include the backdoor service for people that can't roll their cart to the curb, or is that a separate price?
So this is, what we built here is it's robust, right? So this is based on us having a 96-gallon container at the curb, which is going to be 99% of what I think most customers are going to be looking for.
Okay, and then my last question, and I'll be quiet. Route density. How many homes are on a route day? One route vehicle, how many homes do you plan on it picking up in a day's time?
Yeah, it's going to be based on density, right? And so we have route planners and technology that we utilize to identify what is going to be the most efficient turn on a particular route, where that particular stop needs to be on a particular route. It's incredibly advanced. So for me to answer that question, I wouldn't do it justice. One particular route based on miles driven could be 500 homes in the day. Another one based on miles driven could be 1,000. So it's going to be based on what is going to be most optimal for that traffic pattern, the number of homes, distances between homes. There's a significant algorithm that we utilize to say what's going to be the most optimal, which if you refer back to the RFP, there was a section that talked about short hauling and trying to reduce emissions and get folks off the road, right? Part of that is allowing a company like ourselves that this is what we do as an organization, right? We're a logistics-based company. And being able to optimize the routes that are being ran today, utilizing the tools that we have, may be able to take what you're servicing today, the 46,000 homes with 20 vehicles. I'm just throwing out a number. We may be able to figure out a way to do it with 13. Right, so there's different ways when we look at this and how we can best optimize and work with the county to provide the benefits that everyone's looking for.
So with the different municipalities, density would not be an issue, except maybe Eagleville. You got, what, 600 people lives there. I don't know how many homes that is. But if you're going from Murfreesboro to Smyrna, you pass multiple subdivisions. So if there's a subdivision with 50 homes in it, would be worth stopping and getting those 50 along your way?
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. It depends. Yeah. Once again, it depends on the route density and what's built into it.
Where I'm going with it is we have some rural areas that route density is just not going to happen.
Sure.
So more than likely, we're going to have some rural homes that are not going to get curbside collection through this program because it's just not financially feasible. You mentioned that the convenience centers, if you have more curbside collection, the centers get less busy, but they still have to be there. Bulk items, missed pickup days, out-of-town days, all those things. State law says if less than 95% of the homes within the county do not have curbside collection, then you have to have so many convenience centers, and I think the number for us is we'd have to have 9.
Sure. I don't know exactly what that number would look like, but like I stated before, we work with the county to figure out what's going to make the most amount of sense, right? Math would suggest that more folks that participate means less need for a convenience center, which is savings for the city. So, there's we'd figure out the perfect math for the county and what it needed to look like.
Thank you, sir.
Good thing.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, Mike.
Yes, sir.
Robert had one last question. I'd ask you to let him ask it.
Appreciate that. On your recycling, is that a
Make sure your mic's on, Robert.
It is.
Get
May not be working, but
get close to it then.
this is one of the old ones, so
There we go.
it's
There we
working.
go.
So both of those are out. On your curbside recycling, is that single stream, or what are you envisioning there? Or are guys going to have to start out sorting their cardboard, plastic, metal, glass, or what's that plan?
Yeah, so initially it is single stream.
Okay, thank you. I do have a few questions, and then I'll turn it over to the mayor, and then Becky can bring it home. I had Becky pull up this early slide. Somebody help me with the math on the bottom line, $7.75 million city-free disposal. Do you guys know where that number came from? Because I'm having trouble with the math.
Sure.
Because I think we all decided that the city contributes roughly 45,000 tons a year. So I'm just really wondering where the almost $8 million comes from.
Yeah, so I made it a point never to do math in public, but I'm going to do my best right here. So the city contributes about 3 times that tonnage every year. The county itself is about that number, but the city is significantly more.
So 3 times more than the 45-ish I just said?
Yeah, I'm gonna
so
put them-
roughly 150,000?
It's a little
tons?
high, but yes, it's a rough number. So we have MSW that's coming in, and we also have about, I believe the number is about 30,000 tons a year of biosolids from your wastewater treatment facility. So, typically both of those biosolids are a extremely difficult to manage product. So in the open market, those are going for certainly upwards of $60 per ton, probably somewhere closer to $80 a ton. So that's what we use for there. I believe when I calculated that number, we were looking at something in the range of about $40 a ton for the city's waste. Again, I can certainly circle back with the exact numbers for you after the fact, but that's where I was going with, again, using those general metrics. And that would be, obviously, our gate rate is closer to $85 a ton for MSW, but, being a partner and with the volume coming from the city, we would be, I assume we would negotiate a rate to about half that would be the actual value on the open market for the tonnage coming to Middle Point.
Okay, all right. If in fact it is 3 times that, then the $40 is more in line, because I just did simple math and I thought, geez, that's $170-some a ton.
No, it's definitely not 40,000 tons per year.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Well, I didn't even think about the the leachate, which is what you're talking about, right?
So biosolids are a byproduct of wastewater treatment coming from the city's wastewater treatment facility. So that's like the dead biology off the bottom of wastewater treatment that comes in sort of a sludge material into the landfill.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, perfect. Also, Becky, would you go to slide 45, please, if you don't mind? Or page 45, I mean. Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, wow, I'm back to jump to the future. One thing I've got to ask, because my degree's in environmental design, so we should do the secret handshake after we're all. Yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it off camera. We'll do it off camera. You and Becky, you don't necessarily have to find, but there's a blurb on page 45 in the book that mentions. It says, relieve the county of long-term financial environmental liability. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I read the wrong line. Provide proactive protection of the Stones River and surrounding areas. That's a nice huggy-feely statement, right? But when I read that, I think, okay, are you suggesting that the Stones River needs protection? I'm looking at it from the backside in. So when you make a statement like that, I'm thinking, your site sits right in the beautiful bend of the river. I know a little bit about synthetic liners that are under the landfill. They have a life expectancy. Could be long. They also have a tendency, like any plastic, chemicals break down over time. They have a tendency to have some tensile stresses and cracks over time. So I wonder and am concerned about, does the Stones River need protecting? So that's a broad question.
It is.
But
try and summarize it.
Yeah. Okay.
So your question was related to a specific comment in our proposal about related to remediation of the landfills and protection of the Stones River. And there was some other questioning about the efficacy of landfill liner systems as required by the Environmental Protection Agency. To the first question, we take environmental responsibility more serious than literally anything else that we do, and just slightly behind the safety and welfare of our employees and the people that visit our facilities. The fundamental difference between the Middle Point landfill and the county landfill is much of the county landfill is unlined.
Right.
So when we say protect the Stones River, without a liner system, you have the liquid that is in the waste mass leaching directly into the groundwater table and potentially into the Stones River. Now, there's no insinuation in that comment that there's a specific problem. Both facilities do groundwater monitoring on a semi-annual basis. Middle Point, coming from our facility, has no impact to that surrounding groundwater. I can't speak to what the county has. So that's the fundamental difference and really the driver for that. Your other point, I think, to landfill liner systems, not to get too technical, but I think the impression that synthetic liner systems are not suitable for long-term containment of waste is, I would argue, just simply not a factually based argument. There's a reason that the United States government and a litany of studies have said synthetic liner systems are, in fact, the exact type of liner system that we want at the base of our landfills, protecting our precious groundwater resources. Now, we do have redundancy. So if something were to happen to that liner system, that's why we have what's called a composite liner system, which is also required by EPA. So in addition to the geosynthetic, there's also impermeable, the numbers won't matter, but an impermeable clay barrier layer that also acts as a protection system to prevent transmission of leachate down into the groundwater system. So we have an obligation, and it's an obligation that we take very seriously, to, at Middle Point, most landfills have a 30-year post-closure care period. At Middle Point, we have a 50-year post-closure care period in our permit with TDEC. So, not only will we be monitoring groundwater on all sides of our facilities, monitoring for the potential for migration of landfill gas from perimeter gas probes from all sides of our facilities, monitoring stormwater runoff from our landfill from all sides of our facilities during the life of our landfill, but we'll be doing it for 50 years after whatever date it is that Middle Point closes. A very robust environmental monitoring and compliance system, certainly.
All right, thanks, Michael. All right, let me ask the question about homeowners and the easy button. And Robert, I think your last question just a second ago may have cleared this up, or it may have confused me. I'm not sure which yet. The carts that you're proposing, 96-gallon carts you're proposing on the routes, are you proposing two carts, a recyclable cart and a municipal or household waste cart?
Yes, you're correct.
Okay, all right, then, okay. So let me ask this question. Some of the technologies that we have reviewed on the RFPs are kind of hitting the easy button for the homeowners. So you dump your trash like you always do, cans, bottles, glass, everything, and then it will go to a transfer station or go to some building, or it'll go to a building where the robot arms will pick out the glass, pick out the metals, shaker thing, magnets, the whole bit. You know what I'm talking about. And then that waste will either be turned into mulch, it'll be turned into a fuel, it'll do something. So that's the easy button, which I think everybody, including me, would like to just hit the easy button. But your program is talking about re-education, recycling, 2 bins. You got to teach people what a contaminated plastic bottle or a jug versus a non-contaminated, and we have to reach a certain household threshold before we can take phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. Chairman Harris said, man, we want it now. We want all pretty and shiny right now. Somewhere in the middle is where the answer is. I know at one time, Republic talked to us about a partnership with a company that took waste to fuel. We haven't really talked about that tonight, or that wasn't really mentioned in your RFP. Is that deal done, off the table?
Not off the table. As I mentioned, there are a lot of people out there with black boxes. We have not yet seen that facility work, as you mentioned, and they presented, they were opening a facility in Reno.
Right.
We haven't seen it work yet. And just as we've seen, the magic button that put everything in one bin with all your waste and everything and make it work, I'd refer you to, I think it's Montgomery, Alabama, that got stuck with a $300 million facility that doesn't work because getting any value out of those recyclables that have, been covered with crappy diapers and everything else is not realistic and doesn't happen. And so we were reluctant to propose something that we didn't see work and had not seen work yet. And, as we went to them, we said, when you get the bugs worked out, let us know.
Yeah.
And, we've been waiting on them to go out and visit their facility, and they've yet to call us. So it doesn't work yet. And so that's why we wouldn't bring something to you that we would see as a potential failure for you.
Right, okay, thank you. A question I have, and maybe you haven't really had a chance to dig into it or go out and take sampling, but you know, your thresholds of 35,000, 60-something, 100,000 households for the recyclable portion, does the recyclables that wind up at our current convenience centers, does that number, has that come into play? Has that been added into that? Or are those recyclables just, have you not factored that in, or you just assume those are all contaminated and they're not worth adding or computing into that number? I'd be curious if the amount of recyclables that go to the convenience centers is in that household numbers, or in the amount you need to go to phase 2 or phase 3.
I think when we built out the pricing, we did our best to just try to make it, I'm going to use the word, as rudimentary as possible. So, you know, we wanted to pick a number to say, at this is what the price could look like. And so trying to calculate the percentage of what could be recyclable and what's not may have given an unfair picture. So we just wanted to keep it really basic to say, participation is based on the homes. Could it impact the number? Your answer is absolutely, it could. We just didn't, in our planning and proposal, we didn't include that particular part.
All right, so again, you've laid out a lot of opportunities for discussion and negotiation, which we all appreciate. And again, I'm going back to that easy button. So you mentioned in your RFP a potential solution could be, and I think you even graded in brown on your expansion map, mulch, a facility for mulch. Well, it sounds like we can't do everything. You know, if you're going to have a first-class recycling center, then you're really not going to do a mulch facility, right? I mean, is that a wrong assumption?
I do think that's a little bit misaligned. So mulch is primarily constructed of green waste. So that's your yard waste material, which would be totally separate from any recyclable fraction of your waste stream.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you could do you could do both at the same time.
Absolutely. Many communities do. And then many communities have an established green waste program, and they figure out that they want to do something with your wet waste, which is your organic fraction, your food. And you can start to then learn how to blend that into your compost operation.
Okay.
So, yeah, absolutely. Communities around the United States, many of which we're public partners with, have all of those programs.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I have seen, some of us in this room have seen some facilities on the mulching side that maybe aren't so pure as what you just described. Okay. All right. So last question and comment. As I read through Becky's summary and read through your RFP, and Commissioner Blair alluded to it in some questionings about some of the legalese on page 80, and Commissioner Dodd alluded to it a little bit in regards to this all sounds well and good, but if the expansion's not granted, if what we called when I was on the SWAG committee, if Middle Point 2.0 is not in play, then all bets are off. But you all also answered that question with, look, everything's negotiable. I think that's what I gleaned from that. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that was my takeaway. But page 80, and again, I'm not an attorney, and I'm a plain English kind of a guy. Page 80 looks like it has a lot of fine print that kind of would scares me. And you know, almost to the point where it kind of looks like we're held hostage just a little bit, which is not an easy feeling. It kind of makes me uncomfortable. So,
and I'll address that. So,
okay, Dan. You got to be on record, man.
Yeah. At Republic, we have a very large legal team, and there were a lot of gaps that we saw relative to some of the materials that were in the RFP, relative to what we're committing to and how it's committed to, et cetera. So the kind of standard practice and standard language that goes into a lot of our facilities. You probably could find this in probably 95% of our municipal contracts that are out there today. And so we have legal people that we respond to, and they're probably the drafters of this page.
Okay, so we can strike it from the record, is that what you're saying? We're kind of a spit and a handshake kind of group to a certain degree.
Between where our existing host agreement sits and this page, right? So there certainly is some value in having some clarification.
Okay, all right. And before I turn it over to the mayor, I also heard, and I want to repeat, and you correct me if I misspeak here, that I believe it was Chairman Harris said the host agreement, you guys we've all admitted that it's an old document, that it certainly could be up for reconsideration, might not be the right word, but if we move on to further negotiations and vision on your RFP, that is also that document can also be in play as far as host agreement, what we get out of it, what we put in, what needs do you need from the county, should we move forward, and it sounds like that's all in play.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, all right, thank you. Mayor? Oh, Wayne? Sorry.
So we turn green tomorrow, and we're doing everything that you've asked us to do with the recycling, and we're doing it to perfection. So that's about a 40% reduction in our solid waste coming to Middle Point. Is that correct?
Theoretically, that is correct.
So theoretically, we decreased our footprint by 40%. What about the tonnage coming from other communities into our county? What burden is on them for recycling?
I think the way you see the...
Step up to the mic, Dan, I'm sorry.
I think the way you see the changes and the shifts in population in Central Tennessee, i.e. Nashville, and the people, where they're coming from, there's an expectation, I think, in the city that they've got to begin a program of recycling and be more responsible as well. And I think that's probably going to come sooner rather than later. And we think that same trickle effect going down as to, where's it going to go, and let's reduce and become a more sustainable city. They can't keep going, and I'm sure that somebody in Nashville's got a vision of getting a Super Bowl, or they've got a vision of getting the NCAA tournament. Today's world, you have to be a sustainable city, and for one of those organizations to come in and there's no recycling or curbside recycling, I think it's going to raise a lot of questions, a lot of issues. So I think that is going to play out as well. That's my prediction. May not be fact, but I think that's the direction things are going to go.
Anybody else before I turn it over to the mayor's turn? Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You had addressed one of my first question I had written down, Mr. Chairman, and I was going to ask about what happened to Fulcrum. 2 years ago, you shared that with me, and we brought the gentleman in from Fulcrum. I was very much impressed about Fulcrum being able to turn anaerobic food waste into JP4 jet fuel. That was cutting edge technology, and I'm sorry that you guys have invested several hundred millions of dollars, and so Waste Management has invested $400 million, and our Department of Defense and Delta Airlines and Japan Airlines has invested in that company, and it just hasn't showed up. So I'm sorry. Yeah, not a gallon yet, and I'm sorry. The picture looks nice of what the refinery looks like in Reno, but I was looking forward to going out and see how that actually worked. So, out of the presentations we had 28, 29 RFPs Becky,
RFIs.
RFIs that came in, and we had 9 RFPs. This makes number 7. We have 2 more to go. What have seen so far, your educational presentation tonight was by far the best of any that I've seen. I said that 2.5 years ago when I first was elected. My vision for this community was to be the first county in Tennessee to be at zero waste, even though we know that zero waste is not it can't ever be accomplished, but you can get pretty close to it. There's always going to be need for a landfill, but you can get pretty close to it. And I think this committee and the rest of the commission shares that. We even this year passed a resolution. We were too late in getting it to the General Assembly to increase the litter fines. You know, $25 and $50 is just not getting it anymore across our state. Tennessee used to have great advertisements on littering back 20, 30 years ago. And as our population continues to grow, we passed a resolution for $500 and $1,000, but there's 2 conflicting sections of the code that won't allow you to do that, because if it's over $50, then you have to be able to provide a jury trial in General Sessions Court, and our General Sessions judges are not allowed to set a jury. So we'll go back and address that next January with the General Assembly, but that we have got to change the culture, as you said a moment ago, Dan. The culture has got to change in this community if we're ever going to get there. So your educational piece, getting into the schools, planting that seed early on. Being one of the founding members of Recycle Rutherford back in 1992, we've been trying to do that, and we've been kicking the can down the road for over 30 years and trying to get there, and nobody's listening. And as more people come in, we're sending crews out picking up trash, because when our convenience store centers are closed, then they get mad and people take it out and find some isolated place in the community, and they're dumping refrigerators, stoves, mattresses, and trash. So we've got to get a handle on this if we're going to continue to grow, and we're not stopping the growth, so the trash is coming with it. Going back to Commissioner, was my second question, and Commissioner Blair kind of hit on it, is that you're talking about a 40% reduction, but you've got 6.5 years left. So hypothetically, if it takes about 1.5 years to build a state-of-the-art recycling facility, as talked about in your RFP, let's say we had that today, and you've got 6.5 years left, takes 2.5 years, that brings us down to 4.5 years left if you started building that facility today. 40% reduction, how many years could you get back in airspace, hypothetically, back to the landfill?
As this is going on the record, I'll throw a hypothetical number out there for you, Mayor. It would be maybe 6 months. Again, that's a 40% reduction in the quantity of waste coming from only the county. Doesn't include probably city residents there as well, or the out-of-county waste.
Well, and we've talked about that we're only kind of 1 or 2 Good Friday tornadoes away from totally filling up our landfill. Because we all know what happened when we had the Good Friday tornado, that it was just overnight, and of course we're in that alley where those things happen. We have to be prepared to start thinking long term, and that's why we put 25 years into our RFPs. The smell is the issue. The smell continually reminds our citizens every day of the problem. I've been working with this landfill 8 years on the county commission, 16 years in the Senate, and now 2.5 years here. The smell is still there, and it continues. Unfortunately, you're getting questions where the other 8 people who turned in RFPs are not having to answer those questions because you're here. They don't have smells. What are they going to do? And we'll ask those questions. What are you going to do about about the waste stream. I was impressed with using the CNG, compressed natural gas, and going with your trucks. Do you have any anticipation of using wet and dry trucks for dry recycling and then your wet anaerobic waste? I showed the commission, this committee, a group that got started up in Cincinnati that actually takes all the food waste. They go around from all the cafeterias at the schools and collects them. And they're not actually thrown into the garbage can. It's just that you go to the cafeteria at the schools and those kids don't want to drink the milk, so we take that and start feeding the homeless and the hungry. We take the bananas and whatever else is not being eaten. There's ways that we can do this through education and save that instead of putting it in your landfill. But that's an educational part, and we're going to have to start quickly if we're going to change the culture in our community. I certainly appreciate your indulgence tonight and all the battering of questions. They were all good questions, and you had good answers. But I'm glad that everything is on top of the table, because that's where this will start once we conclude our RFPs. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my questions.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. Sorry it drug out a little longer because of the BZA committee, but do you have any closing comments?
I would just like to thank you for giving us this opportunity, number one, come to speak to this group. Again, we'd like to thank our employees for being here, supporting us. Again, we'd like to thank the community for listening to us, being patient with us, and hopefully being a partner with us in coming to the right solution and reaching the right solution. I've been doing this for 30-some years, dealing in the political arena. My mother passed away 2 weeks ago and was a politician's politician. She was elected 6 times, never lost an election. One of the things when I got into this, she said, don't ever let the politics get confused by facts. And I go, what do you mean by that, Mom? And she was like, the facts in reality are the truth. And don't let politics skew the truth. She goes, I can't do the job I do if I'm not honest with the people that elect me. And it stuck with me forever. And when I came here 4 years ago, I committed that we were going to try to do the right things. And hopefully you've seen that commitment, you've seen the change, and you've seen the transparency with the company. And we're going to continue to operate that way. So thank you very much, and appreciate your time.
Thank you. Derek, Michael, thank you. Dan, thank you. All right, gentlemen, we have a meeting Tuesday and Wednesday, I believe, correct? Pratt, next on the list would be Waste Management, Tuesday, May 18th. We finish up with Pratt Recycling on Wednesday, and then we'll decide what our future, as far as shortlisting or any discussion or any business we need to clarify after that on the May 26th meeting. Everybody good? I thought this was a very interesting discussion, and I found it very fruitful. So other than that, Becky? Oh, yeah. Your score sheets, if you don't have them ready tonight, Becky, are you okay with Tuesday night? You got that? That's your homework assignment. These are critical, right? Case dismissed.